So before we get started, I want to get Postman set up and create our basic configuration. Okay. So if you don't have this, would recommend going to postman.com and go ahead and download this on your computer and get this set up. And we are going to configure things so you don't necessarily need it. But it's great way for working with our APIs and debugging and understanding our routes, and it gives us a lot more than what Django can give us. So we are going to be sending post request. We are going to need to send our tokens through our headers. So Postman lets us debug, test this, and actually see if our routes work and make those requests beyond what the Django REST framework gives us. So I will recommend setting this up, downloading it, and go ahead and get started with our configuration. So we are going to start here. And to get this set up, the first thing we are going to do is create a new collection here. So let's go and click on new up here, and I'm going to create a collection, and I'm just going to call this pro shop, and these are going to be our routes for this website. I will not add a description for now. We'll just set this up, and to create our first routes, we are going to go into our pro shop. So this is our collection, and let's create our first request here. Okay. So we are going to add a request, and I'm going to specify the request type here, and we are going to make two requests because those are the only two that we have. So we have one for API forward/product, and I will not add a description there. And then we are also going to have one for our product page. So let's just add a new request here, and this will also be a GET request, and it's going to be API forward/product, and then we are going to pass in a product ID. So we'll throw that in, and this is not the actual route. It's just a name here, and to actually make this request. So I have my backend server on right now, and we are going to make a request to those routes here, and those two views. And if I pull up my URL, this is all we have. Okay, so we technically have three, but we are going to make our calls right now. So let's go into the products one, and all I need to do is take our URL. So I'll just go ahead and grab this one right here on port 8000. So API forward/products, and I can paste this in here. I specify the method. So this is all the extra details that we can do. So we can spend or so sorry, we can send post request later, put and so much. So we have our URL, and we can just hit send. It's going to make our call, and now we get back what Django gives us. So that's the API response, and what I am going to do here, I can actually do this for a single product. So let's get our product with an ID of 3 here. So if I just do one right here, so now we get back our single product. So I don't want to do that with this one. This is just for product. So I will save it here, and I will just save this route. So if I go to my next one right here, and I close that out, so I can close out that request. And in here, I can just pass in that, I can pass in that same URL, and then I can pass in the ID, and this is going to be for our single product. So I will also save this. So now if I close these out and I come back later, I can have those saved in here, and I can just make that request. And this way we can test our API. So what I want to do next is actually create a variable here, so we don't have to uh, have our port 8000 here. So if I go to the top right, so I'm making sure that I am in pro shop, and I can create a new variable. and I can just go into, we'll create this as a local variable, so not a global one. We'll just hit add, and the variable is going to be our URL, and the actual variable is going to be URL, and I'm going to make that all capital, and then I can pass in just the port 8000, so we don't have to write this out every single time, and I'm going to pass in the current value as port 8000. I don't know why that's doing that. So if I save this, we'll just add it. And if I close this out, I can go into view right here. We can see our variables. So we have our URL right there. And now in here, all I have to do is I can just take that out and I can use a double curly braces. And I can just write in URL. So the way that we made it, which is with the capital, and I can hit send now. And now all I have to do is just add in the route, and I don't have to do that base URL. So I don't actually have to type that out every time. So I will just do the same for, let's go into product here, and we will just pass that in here. So that just cleans things up a little bit. We have our collection right here. So this is the website. We have our routes, and later on we are going to have to send our JSON web tokens through our headers. So just to give you an overview, we can pass in our headers right here. So we can pass in something uh, like auth token or whatever that is called. So I think it's just authorization, and then we'll pass in the authorization token in here, and then that's going to send it with our post request. So we can change our request type, and it's going to send a post request. So I'm just going to clean this up right here, and now we are ready to actually set up our JSON web token, and we are going to go back and forth to Postman to test things out. So let's go ahead and get started with that. And just before I close this section out, I realized the name here was of so this is supposed to be ProSoap. And I also left my old variable, so I called the environment here ProSoap earlier, and I added it to the wrong one. So I'm trying to figure out how to delete this. So if I go into ProSoap, I think I can delete an environment like that, and we created our variable inside of this environment. So I'm just going to call this one ProSoap. I just wanted to clean that up, but you can create a new environment just by going in here, and we are going to add one. So I deleted the old ProSoap, created the new one, and if we go into the environment, so we are going to go into ProSoap. This is where we can see all the environments that we have, and we can see the variables that we have in that environment. So let me test that one more time. Everything is still working. So we are still making our API calls. Okay, so now we are ready to move on.